March 7th, 1942. Wehrmacht Forward Command Post, Sevastopol Front. Hauptmann Friedrich Weber stood before a map table surrounded by 6 men, each wearing the distinctive hooded camouflage smock and carrying the leather-bound logbook that marked them as Heeresscharfschützen, German army snipers. The room smelled of tobacco and wet wool. Weber's regiment had lost 11 men in the past 4 days, all to headshots, all from positions the Soviets shouldn't have been able to reach. "Gentlemen," Weber began, tapping a sector northeast of the naval base. "Intelligence confirms a woman is responsible for this embarrassment." The room erupted. Oberjäger Klaus Richter, holder of the Iron Cross First Class with 47 confirmed kills, actually laughed out loud. "A woman? With a rifle?" Another sniper, Werner Ostmann, leaned back in his chair. "Hauptmann, respectfully, Soviet women belong in factories, not front lines. This is propaganda. Probably 3 or 4 men operating, and the Reds credit some girl for morale." Weber read from the report. "Soviet 25th Rifle Division, Sevastopol Defensive Sector. Junior Lieutenant Lyudmila Pavlichenko, age 25, former university student." More laughter. Richter raised his schnapps. "To easy hunting, gentlemen. University girls playing soldier." They drank. What Hauptmann Weber didn't know was that Lyudmila Pavlichenko was already in position, had been since 0400 that morning, and had her scope trained on the exact building where this meeting was taking place. Born July 12th, 1916 in Bila Tserkva, Ukraine, Pavlichenko had joined a shooting club at 14 and could outshoot university boys by 16. When Germany invaded, she abandoned her history studies at Kiev University and joined the Red Army's 25th Rifle Division as a sniper. In the 73 days since, she had recorded 54 confirmed kills. But what made German intelligence reports increasingly frantic was a specific pattern. Of those 54, 18 were German snipers who had been sent specifically to eliminate her. 18 men trained at Sennelager Shooting School, equipped with ZF-42 scopes, and selected for calm nerves and steady hands, dead before they could complete their assigned task of hunting a 25-year-old woman. By the time this war ended, that number would reach 36. Within 18 hours of Weber's briefing, Oberjäger Klaus Richter, Iron Cross holder, 47 kills, would become number 19. He would die believing he was stalking her. He would be wrong about who was hunting whom. German sniper doctrine, refined since the Great War and perfected through Poland and France, represented the most sophisticated approach to precision marksmanship any army had ever developed. The Sennelager Shooting School near Paderborn produced approximately 300 snipers annually, each undergoing 16 weeks of training that cost the Reich 4,800 Reichsmarks per graduate. Selection criteria eliminated 90% of applicants. Candidates needed documented marksmanship scores in the top 2%, psychological evaluations confirming emotional stability under extended isolation, and physical examinations proving vision rated 20/20 or better in both eyes. The curriculum covered ballistics mathematics, range estimation through mil-dot reticles, wind reading using vegetation movement and mirage detection, camouflage theory based on background color matching and shadow exploitation, and fieldcraft including approach routes, hide construction, and extraction planning. German doctrine emphasized the Carabiner 98K rifle, a bolt-action Mauser design, firing 7.92 mm ammunition, fitted with ZF-41 or ZF-42 telescopic sights offering 4x magnification. Total system weight, 4.4 kilograms. Effective range, 800 meters with capable shooters achieving kills beyond 1,000 meters. German snipers operated in pairs, a Schütze and a Beobachter, shooter and spotter, with elaborate communication protocols. They carried full field gear, including entrenching tools, camouflage nets, binoculars, range-finding equipment, and detailed maps. Average German sniper survival, 14 months. Average kills per sniper, 23. The system worked. German snipers had broken Soviet advances, eliminated officer leadership, and created psychological terror across the Eastern Front. Their confidence wasn't arrogance. It was earned through methodical training, superior equipment, and documented results. While German instructors perfected these doctrines, Lyudmila Pavlichenko was systematically violating every principle they taught. On February 19, 1942, near Sevastopol's Kamishli Bay, she engaged a German position from 340 meters, firing without a spotter, without backup, and without any of the elaborate preparation German doctrine required. Her rifle was a Mosin Nagant model, 1891-30, a design 41 years old when she first held it. The weapon weighed 4 kilograms with its PU scope, fired 7. 62 54mm ammunition, and featured a bolt mechanism so stiff in cold weather that Soviet manuals recommended urinating on it to thaw the frozen action. Her scope offered 3.5x magnification, inferior to German optics, and fogged constantly in Crimean humidity. She carried no spotter, no rangefinder, no elaborate camouflage gear. She wore a standard Red Army Gymnastiorka tunic and Pilotka cap. That day, she killed a German sniper who had been systematically eliminating Soviet machine gun crews. She identified his muzzle flash, calculated wind drift using grass movement, adjusted for the weapon's known tendency to shoot low at ranges beyond 300 meters, and fired one shot. The German, Gefreiter Hans Becker, died before his spotter could identify her position. This was kill number 8 of what would eventually become 36 German snipers specifically sent to hunt her, and part of her total, 309 confirmed kills. German after-action reports listed Becker's death as unexplained sniper loss, attributing it to random Soviet fire. They couldn't conceive that a woman with inferior equipment and no formal training had outshot one of Zenelager's graduates. The Soviet response violated every principle German doctrine established. Where Germans provided 16 weeks of specialized training, Soviet women's snipers received accelerated courses lasting days, sometimes mere hours before frontline deployment. Where German doctrine mandated psychological screening, Soviets accepted volunteers based primarily on willingness and basic shooting competence. Where Germans issued precision-manufactured Karabiner 98K rifles with matched ammunition, Soviets distributed Mosin Nagant rifles, manufactured in facilities so overworked that quality control became theoretical. The weapons functioned, barely. Tolerances varied wildly, scopes arrived misaligned. Ammunition lots produced different points of impact. Soviet female snipers operated without spotters because there weren't enough trained personnel. They carried minimal equipment because Soviet logistics couldn't supply labor comfort items. They accepted positions German doctrine would classify as suicidal, staying in hides for days without extraction plans, enduring minus 30-degree temperatures in Crimean winters that turned fingers black with frostbite. The Mosin Nagant itself represented brutal utilitarianism, heavy, inaccurate by German standards, with a scope mount that required the bolt to be worked at an awkward angle, forcing shooters to break cheek weld between shots. Soviet doctrine, if it could be called that, consisted primarily of find elevated position, wait for targets, shoot accurately, survive. Where German snipers logged detailed engagement data, Soviets simply counted bodies. Where Germans rotated snipers to prevent psychological burnout, Soviets left women in positions until they died, or the sector fell. What German engineers saw as fatal inadequacies, Lyudmila Pavlichenko transformed into tactical advantages. On March 9, 1942, she occupied a bombed-out building foundation with no roof, no walls above 1 meter, and no concealment except rubble. German doctrine would have rejected this position as indefensible. She stayed there for 4 days. Her Mosin Nagant's weight, which German standards criticized as excessive, allowed her to hold steadier aim during Sevastopol's constant artillery vibrations. The rifle's crude bolt required such force to operate that it built forearm strength beyond what German trainers considered necessary. Its scope's narrow field of view, inferior to German optics, forced her to develop target acquisition skills through peripheral vision and sound. The weapon's tendency to shoot low and left at range meant she'd fired thousands of practice rounds, learning its precise personality until she could compensate instinctively. During those 4 days, she engaged 11 targets, achieving 7 kills. One was Oberjäger Werner Ostmann, one of the men who had laughed at Weber's briefing. When recovery teams found Ostmann's body, the shot placement, a single round entering beneath his left eye, indicated the shooter had anticipated his movement behind cover and fired at where he would be, not where he was. German analysis noted, indicates advanced predictive targeting capability inconsistent with reported Soviet training levels. Pavlichenko's own assessment, recorded in her memoir years later. German snipers had better equipment. We had more reasons to win. Equipment doesn't pull triggers. Determination does. An official Wehrmacht intelligence assessment dated March 15, 1942, concluded. Analysis of female Soviet sniper deployment, Sevastopol sector, Soviet utilization of female personnel in direct combat roles represents desperate measure indicative of severe manpower depletion. Current intelligence confirms approximately 24 women assigned sniper duties across Sevastopol defensive perimeter. Equipment analysis indicates standard Mosin Nagant rifles, inadequate optical systems, minimal support infrastructure. Tactical assessment. Female physiology presents multiple disadvantages for sustained combat operations, including reduced upper body strength, affecting weapon stability, reduced cold weather tolerance, psychological unsuitability for isolated fieldwork, and kill decision-making. Training deficiencies, apparent in observed tactics, lacking systematic hide preparation, extraction protocols, team coordination. Estimate operational effectiveness at 30% of equivalent male sniper capability. Predicted casualty rate among female snipers, 75% within initial 60 days of deployment due to inadequate training, psychological breakdown, or tactical errors. Recommend monitor for propaganda value, but allocate no special countermeasures. Female sniper phenomenon expected to resolve through natural attrition within 8 to 12 weeks as reality of combat eliminates unprepared personnel. Assessment confidence level, high. Supporting data, historical precedent, physiological studies, current Eastern Front casualty patterns. This assessment carried the signatures of 3 Wehrmacht intelligence officers and 2 Wehrmacht medical consultants. It represented the consensus of experienced military analysts applying established doctrine and battlefield data to a novel situation. It was catastrophically wrong. While Wehrmacht intelligence dismissed the threat, Lyudmila Pavlichenko was systematically dismantling their carefully trained sniper program. Between March 15th and March 28th, 1942, she killed 9 men. 7 were regular infantry. 2 were German snipers deployed specifically to eliminate Soviet snipers in her sector. The first, Oberjäger Stefan Kruger, 42 confirmed kills, approached her area using textbook stalking technique, moving during artillery exchanges to mask movement noise, advancing through gullies to avoid skyline exposure, wearing camouflage that matched spring vegetation. Pavlichenko spotted him by noticing crows that didn't flush when he passed beneath, indicating the birds had become accustomed to human presence in that location, meaning he'd used that route before, meaning he'd established a pattern. She waited 6 hours until he reached his planned hide, then shot him through the gap between his helmet and collar as he bent to arrange camouflage netting. The second, Hauptmann Otto Brenner, Zenelager instructor temporarily assigned to frontline operations to assess Soviet tactics, died 3 days later. Pavlichenko tracked him through scope reflection, a basic mistake German training specifically warned against. One shot, 410 meters. By this point, she had eliminated 22 German snipers of the eventual 36 that would cement her reputation among German POWs as the woman you couldn't kill. Wait, German logistics officers recorded unexplainable sniper losses, Sevastopol sector, but attributed them to general combat attrition rather than systematic targeting by a single shooter. The Germans had made a fatal calculation error. Their assessment concluded female snipers would fail due to physiological and psychological inadequacy. The logic seemed sound. German medical studies documented male advantages in upper body strength, cold tolerance, and psychological resilience under isolation. German training data showed women scored lower on long-range precision tests. German combat doctrine assumed emotional instability under sustained stress. Therefore, women plus combat sniping equals inevitable failure. What they catastrophically overlooked was that none of these factors mattered if the woman refused to accept them as limitations. The Wehrmacht created a measurement system, then assumed reality would conform to their measurements. Lyudmila Pavlichenko simply ignored the system entirely. German doctrine said women lacked upper body strength for stable shooting. She fired from supported positions, using rubble and terrain to create natural rifle rests that eliminated strength requirements. German doctrine said women couldn't tolerate cold. She stayed in frozen positions until her fingers blackened because going home meant her target escaped. German doctrine said women were psychologically unsuitable for killing. She'd grown up in Soviet Ukraine during collectivization and famine, watching people die from political decisions made in distant offices. Killing men actively invading her country felt less morally complicated than watching neighbors starve from policy. German doctrine said women needed extensive training. She'd fired over 1,500 practice rounds before the war started, more than most German snipers fired in training, because Soviet shooting clubs were free and she enjoyed it. German calculations measured biological averages. Pavlichenko was not average. She was a woman who'd chosen this work, which meant she'd already overcome every social barrier Germans assumed would stop her. By the time Wehrmacht intelligence realized their error, she'd already killed 28 of the 36 German snipers who would try to hunt her. On April 2, 1942, near Sevastopol's Severnaya Bay, Hauptmann Friedrich Weber personally led a four-man sniper team to eliminate the Soviet woman problem. Weber had 59 confirmed kills, Iron Cross First Class, and reputation as one of Germany's most effective Eastern Front marksmen. His plan was methodical. His team would establish overlapping fields of fire covering known Soviet approach routes, use artillery to force movement, then engage targets during displacement. Professional, coordinated, exactly what German doctrine prescribed. Lyudmila Pavlichenko killed Weber from 387 meters while he was establishing his primary hide, shot Oberjäger Heinrich Kohl 14 minutes later during the confusion, and wounded a third team member who survived only because his companions dragged him back under smoke cover. Two snipers, both with over 40 kills each, dead in less than 15 minutes. The surviving team members reported that they never saw her, never heard shots that could be definitively attributed to her position, and never identified her hide location. The report concluded, "Target demonstrates tactical awareness and fieldcraft exceeding anything encountered in this sector. Recommend immediate reassessment of intelligence regarding Soviet female sniper capabilities." But by then, Pavlichenko had rotated to a different sector. Over the following months, 8 more German snipers would attempt to kill her. 8 more would die trying, bringing her total to 36 German counter-snipers eliminated. German engineers calculated ballistics, training time, physical capability, psychological resilience. They calculated everything except one variable: determination multiplied by skill, multiplied by necessity equals lethality, regardless of gender. And Lyudmila Pavlichenko had all three in quantities their doctrine never measured. The determination that had already proven unstoppable, encountering 36 German snipers, was only the first of three advantages Lyudmila Pavlichenko possessed. German sniper doctrine emphasized aggressive reconnaissance and rapid engagement. Senelager training taught systematic sector clearing, moving from hide to establish dominance, spending maximum 4 hours in any single position before relocating to prevent counter-sniper targeting. The doctrine emerged from Great War experience, where static snipers became predictable targets. German instructors drilled speed of engagement, spot target, calculate range, fire within 90 seconds. The system worked against conventional opponents who operated on similar timelines, but it created a fatal vulnerability against opponents willing to abandon the timeline entirely. German snipers moved to find targets. Soviet women snipers waited for targets to come to them. A German sniper spending 4 hours in position might engage 3 or 4 targets, if conditions permitted. A Soviet woman spending 48 hours in the same position would wait for the one target that mattered. German doctrine optimized for quantity of engagements. Soviet necessity created patience that German training never contemplated. Time became a weapon Germans couldn't counter because their entire system was built on denying enemies time to prepare. When facing an enemy who'd already been in position for days before Germans even entered the sector, preparation was complete before the hunt began. On April 14, 1942, Lyudmila Pavlichenko demonstrated this advantage during what would become Mission 78 of her career. Wehrmacht intelligence had identified her general operating area near Sevastopol's northern perimeter and deployed a 5-man sniper team under Oberjäger Martin Schulz, a veteran with 38 confirmed kills. Schulz's plan followed German doctrine precisely. His team would sweep the sector systematically, clearing potential hide sites, establishing temporary positions, forcing any Soviet snipers to either engage prematurely or withdraw. Professional, methodical, exactly what training prescribed. Pavlichenko had occupied a partially collapsed cellar foundation 4 days earlier. No roof, minimal walls, surrounded by rubble that provided neither comfort nor obvious concealment. German doctrine would have rejected this position as too exposed. She never moved. For 96 hours, she remained in that cellar, observing German patrol patterns through gaps in rubble, eating dried bread, urinating into a can, tracking the movements of Schulz's team as they systematically cleared surrounding buildings. She watched them establish 3 different temporary positions. She watched them abandon those positions after 4-hour intervals. She waited. On the 4th day, Schulz made his fatal mistake. Confident that systematic clearing had secured the area, he chose a position with excellent fields of fire overlooking Soviet approach routes. He spent 40 minutes preparing the hide, arranging camouflage, settling in for what he expected would be productive hunting. Pavlichenko, who had observed him selecting this position, who had watched him walk past her location twice without detecting her, who had spent 4 days learning every angle and shadow in this sector, fired one shot. Schulz died believing he'd secured the area. His team spent 6 hours searching for the shooter before withdrawing. They never found her position because they assumed no one could remain static for 4 days. This was counter-sniper kill, number 23 of the eventual 36 German snipers who would fail to hunt her successfully. Patience had beaten speed because German doctrine never imagined opponents willing to suffer for days to achieve a single, perfect shot. The second advantage emerged from what Germans considered the Mosin Nagant's greatest weakness. German sniper equipment represented precision manufacturing at its finest. The Karabiner 98K rifle underwent 73 individual quality checks during production. Each barrel was hand-lapped to exact tolerances, test-fired for accuracy, then matched to actions selected for precise bolt timing. ZF-41 and ZF-42 scopes received individual calibration, with adjustment mechanisms graduated in precise half-minute increments. German ammunition was manufactured to specifications permitting variants of only 0.003 inches in case dimensions and 0.2 grains in powder charge. The complete system, rifle plus scope plus matched ammunition, cost 890 Reichsmarks and required 18 days of specialized labor to produce. This precision created phenomenal accuracy. German snipers routinely achieved kills beyond 800 meters, with documented engagements exceeding 1,000 meters. But precision created fragility. Scopes misaligned from minor impacts required factory recalibration. Actions fouled by dirt needed armorer attention. Ammunition lots couldn't be mixed without affecting point of impact. German snipers carried cleaning kits, adjustment tools, spare parts, maintenance schedules. The Mosin Nagant was crude by comparison, mass-produced in factories prioritizing volume over refinement. Rifles showed visible tool marks and rough finishes. Bolts required excessive force. Scopes arrived misaligned and stayed that way because no calibration equipment existed. Soviet ammunition varied so wildly between lots that shooters had to re-zero rifles each time they received new supplies. But crudeness created resilience. The Mosin Nagant functioned when dropped, when frozen, when covered in mud, when neglected for weeks. Loose tolerances meant dirt didn't jam actions. Simple mechanisms meant field repairs needed only wire and determination. The rifle was inaccurate by German standards, but reliable beyond German conception. In extended field operations where equipment maintenance determined survival, crude reliability beat precision fragility. During the siege of Sevastopol's Kamishli Bay sector, Lyudmila Pavlichenko's rifle embodied this advantage across 47 consecutive days without returning to Soviet supply lines. Her Mosin Nagant, serial number indecipherable after the Finnish wore away, suffered conditions that would have rendered German equipment non-functional. She dropped it twice while moving between positions under artillery fire. The stock cracked longitudinally, but remained attached. She continued using it. The scope's adjustment knob broke off completely, leaving her unable to make mechanical corrections for range. She compensated by learning the rifle's trajectory so precisely that she aimed using Kentucky windage, holding over or under, based on memorized drop at each distance. The bolt became so stiff from salt air corrosion that she needed both hands to cycle it, breaking her cheek weld after every shot. She adapted her technique. Russian winter temperatures dropped to -38 degrees. German snipers required heated tents and maintenance facilities to prevent their precision equipment from freezing. Pavlichenko urinated on her bolt mechanism each morning to thaw the frozen action, as Soviet manuals actually recommended, then wiped it clean with cloth torn from her tunic. The rifle continued functioning. By the time she finally returned to supply lines, her Mosin Nagant had 47 days of constant field use, 2 drops from height, complete scope adjustment failure, severe corrosion, and chronic bolt stiffness. It had also delivered 63 confirmed kills during that period, including 4 German counter-snipers. One of those, Hauptmann Ernst Weber, brother of Friedrich Weber, whom she'd killed previously, had carried a pristine Karabiner 98K with factory-fresh ZF-42 scope. His equipment was perfect. He died at 340 meters, killed by a woman using a broken rifle held together by wire and stubbornness. German armorers would have condemned Pavlichenko's weapon as unserviceable. She was using it to eliminate Germany's finest marksmen because simplicity survived where precision failed. This was approximately mission 140 of her career, well on her way to the 309 total kills and 36 counter-sniper eliminations that would terrify German POWs for years afterward. But the third advantage proved most devastating to German tactical planning. Wehrmacht counter-sniper doctrine relied on systematic detection. German teams used triangulation equipment to locate enemy muzzle flashes, acoustic sensors to track shot origins, and pattern analysis to predict hide locations based on engagement angles. The system required data. Fire 3 shots from the same position, and German equipment could calculate your location within 50 meters. Fire 5 shots and they'd have you within 10 meters. German doctrine therefore emphasized constant relocation. Fire, displace, establish new hide, repeat. The system assumed enemies would generate detectable patterns because shooting generated evidence. Lyudmila Pavlichenko generated almost no evidence. Her approach to hide selection violated every pattern German analysis predicted. German doctrine taught elevated positions for maximum field of view. She preferred ground-level positions with restricted fields of fire, but complete concealment. German doctrine taught positions offering multiple escape routes. She often selected positions with no escape route, betting everything on remaining undetected. German doctrine taught rotating between 3 or 4 prepared hides. She sometimes used the same position for a week, moving only during darkness for bodily functions, returning before dawn. German pattern analysis searched for logical tactical positions. She deliberately chose illogical positions, places where no rational sniper would hide. Locations German sweeps ignored because they seemed too exposed or too restricted or too uncomfortable. Most critically, she fired infrequently. German counter-sniper teams expected engagements every few hours as targets presented themselves. Pavlichenko might spend 20 hours observing, then take a single shot, then go silent for another 20 hours. German detection equipment needed multiple data points. She provided 1 data point per day, maximum, sometimes going 48 hours without firing. By the time German teams arrived to investigate a suspected sniper position, she'd often killed from that position 2 days earlier and departed. They were hunting ghosts because their entire system assumed snipers would behave like snipers, following doctrine, seeking targets, accumulating kills efficiently. She behaved like prey that evolved into predator, survival-focused, patient to the edge of inhuman, willing to suffer conditions German soldiers couldn't imagine enduring. On May 3, 1942, Wehrmacht deployed what they termed Operation Greif, a dedicated 5-day counter-sniper sweep of Pavlichenko's known operating area. 32 German snipers, organized into 8 4-man teams, supported by acoustic detection equipment, searchlight units, and infantry screening forces. The operation's explicit objective was eliminating the Soviet female sniper, responsible for estimated 38 German sniper casualties, though actual number was 31 at that point. The sweep followed textbook procedure. Teams established observation posts covering all approaches. Acoustic equipment monitored for gunshots. Infantry patrols forced movement by clearing buildings systematically. For 5 days, German forces saturated her sector. Pavlichenko killed 2 German snipers during Operation Greif. Oberjäger Hans Dietrich died on day 3, shot while moving between observation posts. Unteroffizier Stefan Koch died on day 5, killed in his hide by a shooter whose position German acoustic equipment never detected despite recording the shot. After 5 days, 32 German snipers, extensive equipment, and several hundred infantry had eliminated 0 Soviet snipers while losing 2 of their own to the primary target they'd been sent to kill. The operation was classified as unsuccessful. German after-action analysis concluded Pavlichenko possessed either superhuman patience or access to intelligence about German sweep operations that allowed her to avoid detection. The simpler explanation, that a woman could simply remain motionless for days in conditions German soldiers found uninhabitable, didn't appear in official reports because German doctrine had no framework for conceptualizing that level of field endurance. This was counter-sniper number 32 and 33 of her eventual 36, achieved during an operation specifically designed to kill her. Invisibility had defeated detection because German systems measured what they expected to find. They never found what they couldn't imagine existing. German technical superiority on paper meant nothing in operational reality, and Wehrmacht logistics officers were beginning to compile disturbing evidence of this disparity. German sniper training consumed 16 weeks at Sennelager shooting school, costing 4,800 Reichsmarks per graduate. Approximately 70% of graduates survived to complete 25 combat missions before death, wounding, or psychological breakdown required replacement. Average German's sniper career yielded 23 confirmed kills before loss. Training pipeline produced roughly 300 snipers annually, barely replacing Eastern Front attrition. Each sniper represented significant investment. 4,800 Reichsmarks training, 890 Reichsmarks for rifle and optics, 200 Reichsmarks for specialized equipment, ongoing costs for ammunition, maintenance, support personnel. Total life cycle cost per German sniper through completion of expected 25 missions, approximately 8,000 Reichsmarks. Soviet sniper training, by contrast, consumed days or weeks in accelerated courses at frontline training facilities. Many female snipers received instruction lasting 72 hours before deployment. Pavlichenko's formal training consisted of 5 days at a Kiev shooting club facility before assignment to 25th Rifle Division. Cost, negligible, perhaps 50 rubles including ammunition. Her rifle and scope, 200 rubles, approximately 240 Reichsmarks at wartime exchange rates. Specialized equipment, none. Total Soviet investment in Pavlichenko through May 1942, under 400 Reichsmarks. Her confirmed kills at that point, 187, including 33 German counter-snipers. German investment in those 33 counter-snipers specifically sent to eliminate her, 264,000 Reichsmarks in training and equipment alone. Result: 33 dead Germans, 1 living Soviet woman. The cost-effectiveness ratio was approximately 660 to 1 in Soviet favor. Wehrmacht was spending 600 times what Soviets spent creating the threat and losing. Lyudmila Pavlichenko personally represented this asymmetric efficiency in devastating clarity. By June 1942, German intelligence estimated Wehrmacht had committed 120 to 140 sniper sorties, specifically tasked with eliminating her over 5 months of operations. Using conservative estimates of 500 Reichsmarks operational cost per sortie, including transportation, ammunition, support, and personnel time, German expenditure targeting one woman exceeded 60,000 Reichsmarks. German counter-sniper teams fired an estimated 8,000 to 12,000 rounds, attempting to kill her during direct engagements and suppression fire. At 8 Reichsmarks per round of precision ammunition, another 64,000 to 96,000 Reichsmarks. German observation posts, acoustic detection equipment, and dedicated security measures in her operating sectors cost additional thousands in equipment and personnel allocation. Reasonable estimate of total German expenditure attempting to eliminate Lyudmila Pavlichenko, specifically, 180,000 to 220,000. Reichsmarks. She survived. Her personal kill total of 309 confirmed eliminations, achieved using a rifle worth 240 Reichsmarks and ammunition, costing fraction of German expenditures. Destroyed estimated German material value exceeding 2 million Reichsmarks when accounting for lost equipment, training investments in killed personnel, and replacement costs. She represented more cumulative combat effectiveness than entire companies of German snipers. Average American bomber crew rotated home after 25 missions. Pavlichenko's eventual 309 confirmed kills represented continuous combat engagement, equivalent to 12 full American tours of duty, except she never rotated home until wounded. Her 36 successful counter-sniper eliminations meant she'd killed more German snipers sent to hunt her than most German snipers killed total enemies in their entire careers. She was, by any rational cost-benefit analysis, one of the most efficient weapons in Soviet arsenal, generating vastly more German losses than her creation cost, while German attempts to eliminate her cost more than creating several dozen replacement snipers would have cost Soviets. German high command was beginning to realize that killing women in crude positions with obsolete equipment was costing more than those women were costing the Soviets. And Lyudmila Pavlichenko had no intention of stopping. As German high command grappled with the resource drain, frontline intelligence was about to deliver a shocking revelation that would fundamentally challenge Wehrmacht assumptions about their enemy. June 22, 1942, near Sevastopol's naval dockyards, a German assault unit from 132nd Infantry Division overran a Soviet defensive position during a rapid advance following artillery bombardment. Among captured materials, Lieutenant Hans Becker, intelligence officer, found a leather satchel containing operational documents, abandoned during hasty Soviet evacuation. First document examined, regimental roster listing sniper positions and kill counts. Names appeared feminine, but Becker initially attributed this to unfamiliarity with Russian nomenclature. Second document, personnel files with birth dates, photographs, physical descriptions. The photographs showed young women, ages 19 to 26. Third document, awards. Citations explicitly referencing Junior Lieutenant Lyudmila Pavlichenko, female sniper, with confirmed kill count listed as 187. Becker's report to battalion command described his findings as possible propaganda materials or clerical documentation for auxiliary personnel. But cross-referencing revealed something impossible to dismiss. The names in these personnel files matched names appearing in captured Soviet battle reports spanning 4 months. Same individuals credited with eliminating German reconnaissance patrols, destroying observation posts, and killing specific named German officers. These weren't auxiliary personnel or propaganda inventions. These were combat records documenting active operations. Most disturbing detail in Pavlichenko's file specifically, annotation indicating 31 confirmed counter-sniper kills, meaning she had eliminated 31 German snipers sent to hunt Soviet snipers. The report marked urgent verification required, reached division headquarters within 6 hours. Battalion dismissed the intelligence as Soviet disinformation. Division command requested additional verification. Within 8 days, 3 separate intelligence reports from different sectors confirmed female Soviet snipers operating across Sevastopol front. Wehrmacht intelligence apparatus, initially skeptical, began systematic investigation. Intercepted Soviet radio communications referenced feminine call signs and ranks. Recovered Soviet newspapers featured photographs of female snipers receiving decorations. Captured Soviet soldiers, when interrogated about sniper support, consistently mentioned women without hesitation or apparent deception. Pattern became undeniable through June and July 1942. Wehrmacht intelligence confirmed at least 40 female snipers operating in Sevastopol sector alone, with similar numbers reported from Leningrad and Moscow fronts. Pavlichenko's name appeared in multiple captured documents, always with escalating kill counts. 187 in June, 224 in July, 257 in August. By September, Wehrmacht intelligence designated her high-value target, with specific counter-sniper resources allocated to her elimination. Report reached Army Group South headquarters, where General Oberst Ernst von Kleist received briefing on Soviet female sniper phenomenon. The briefing room atmosphere, according to staff officers present, combined disbelief with growing concern. Senior officers confronted with photographic evidence, captured documents, prisoner testimonies, and operational analysis demonstrating these women were achieving kill ratios exceeding many male snipers. Von Kleist's recorded response: "This information will be restricted to operational necessity levels only. Wider dissemination risks morale." Impact that outweighs intelligence value. The revelation created crisis within Wehrmacht command structure that extended beyond simple intelligence assessment. German military doctrine, rooted in Prussian tradition and reinforced by Nazi ideology, maintained explicit assumptions about women's capabilities in combat. Women served in auxiliary roles, communications, medical services, never direct combat, certainly never in specializations requiring the psychological hardness and technical precision of sniper operations. Discovering that Soviet women were not only serving as snipers, but achieving remarkable success, created cognitive dissonance that many officers couldn't resolve. Disbelief persisted despite mounting evidence. Some commanders continued demanding additional verification even after dozens of confirming reports. Others accepted the facts but refused to acknowledge implications, insisting these were isolated exceptions or that Soviet desperation had forced use of unsuitable personnel who would inevitably fail. Humiliation affected younger officers, particularly severely. Luftwaffe pilots who'd failed to intercept night witches could rationalize their failure through technical factors. Infantry officers facing female snipers had no such comfort. They'd been outmaneuvered, outshot, and outsurvived by women using inferior equipment. Several officers requested transfers rather than continue operations in sectors with known female sniper activity. Official Wehrmacht communications reflected this discomfort through deliberate language choices. Operational Order 4429, issued September 3, 1942, stated, "All references to enemy sniper personnel in combat reports shall employ standard military terminology. Demographic specifics regarding enemy combatants serve no operational purpose and shall be omitted to maintain professional focus." Translation: "Don't mention they're women because it makes us look incompetent." Frontline soldiers' reaction differed markedly from officer corps. Experienced troops, focused on survival rather than ideology, demonstrated grudging respect mixed with practical fear. German infantry learned quickly that Soviet female snipers were patient, skilled, and utterly lethal. Nicknamed Flintenweiber, riflewomen, spread through frontline units despite official discouragement, spoken with tone more respectful than derogatory. While German command struggled with the revelation, Lyudmila Pavlichenko continued her missions without pause or awareness of the crisis her existence was creating in enemy headquarters. On June 25, 1942, 3 days after German intelligence first confirmed her identity from captured documents, she was occupying a destroyed tank hole near Sevastopol's Sapun Ridge, waiting for German artillery observers to establish their forward position. She'd been in that position since dawn, enduring 40-degree heat radiating from sun-heated metal, drinking sparingly from her canteen, focused entirely on the sector where German artillery had been adjusting fire. Her perspective on being discovered was characteristically pragmatic. Soviet intelligence had briefed her that Germans were aware of female snipers. Her response, recorded in divisional records: "Good. Maybe they'll send better snipers to hunt us. I'm running out of worthy opponents." By the time Wehrmacht confirmed her regiment's composition and designated her high-value target, she had already completed 187 of her eventual 309 total kills, including 31 of the 36 German counter-snipers who would attempt to eliminate her. On that specific June day, while German officers debated whether women could really be combat effective, she killed Hauptmann Wilhelm Strauss, a 43-year-old Zenelager instructor with 51 confirmed kills, who'd been assigned specifically to eliminate Soviet snipers in her sector. One shot, 290 meters, through gap between sandbags he'd spent 2 hours carefully arranging. Strauss became counter-sniper number 32, The discovery changed nothing operationally. Soviet female snipers continued fighting, and Germans continued dying to opponents their doctrine insisted shouldn't exist. After the war, Soviet and Allied interrogators collected testimonies from thousands of German prisoners during 1945 and 1946 processing. Standard interrogation protocols included questions about Eastern Front experiences, specific operations, unit activities, and notable combat incidents. When interrogators asked about facing Soviet snipers, unexpected consistency emerged in responses. Even hardened Waffen-SS veterans, men who'd fought across multiple fronts and showed little emotion discussing most combat experiences, demonstrated visible reactions when discussing female Soviet snipers. Interrogation transcripts noted prisoners becoming agitated, requesting to move to different topics, or showing signs of psychological distress when pressed for details. Pattern emerged across hundreds of interviews conducted in different locations by different interrogators. The consistency suggested genuine trauma rather than coordinated deception. Obergefreiter Klaus Richmann, 6th Army Infantry, captured at Stalingrad, testified. We knew there were women snipers in our sector by autumn 1942. Command didn't tell us officially, but word spreads among soldiers. You learn to recognize patterns. Single shots, perfect accuracy, positions no man would tolerate for the duration these snipers maintained them. I personally witnessed 7 men from my company killed by what we believed was one female sniper over 6 weeks. She operated from destroyed building that offered no comfort, no protection from weather, but perfect field of fire over our supply route. We attempted to eliminate her position multiple times, sent our best marksmen. They didn't return. Eventually, we had to abandon that supply route entirely. Cost us additional 3 kilometers of movement per convoy. After the war, I learned that sector was Lyudmila Pavlichenko's area of operation. The knowledge that one woman forced an entire company to alter logistics didn't surprise me. By that point, nothing about Soviet women surprised me. They were harder than us. Oberjäger Stefan Wolf, Wehrmacht sniper with 38 confirmed kills, captured in Ukraine 1944, provided testimony that interrogators initially flagged as potentially fabricated due to its seemingly implausible details. I was assigned counter-sniper duties Sevastopol sector, June 1942. Intelligence provided list of high-priority Soviet snipers. One name stood out because it was clearly feminine, Pavlichenko. We joked about it during briefing. Our instructor, man with 60 kills who'd survived Poland and France, told us stop laughing. He'd lost 3 students to her already. We didn't believe him. I was assigned with partner to locate and eliminate. We spent 11 days in that sector. Saw nothing. Heard nothing. On 12th day, my partner died instantly, single shot, through temple. I never heard the shot, never saw muzzle flash, never identified position despite training and equipment specifically designed for counter-sniper work. I retreated, reported failure, was reassigned different sector because I refused to return. She had broken me psychologically. Learning after war that she'd killed 36 German snipers who attempted to hunt her, that I was simply one more failure in a long line of failures, confirmed what I already knew. We were hunting Ghost, who was actually hunting us. Hauptmann Otto Brandt, Luftwaffe night fighter pilot, provided perspective from air operations side. We received orders to support ground forces by intercepting Soviet night harassment aircraft, primarily PO-2 biplanes. Failed repeatedly. Aircraft too slow for effective engagement. I attempted 23 interceptions across 8 months. 0 successful kills. Learned post-war that many of these pilots were women. The knowledge added context to our failure. Not because women were better pilots, but because entire situation had been upside down from beginning. We were trained to fight German concepts of warfare. Soviets fought Soviet warfare. Gender was irrelevant. Capability was everything. My 23 failures weren't to women specifically. They were to opponents who'd found our weakness and exploited it perfectly. Common themes appeared across testimonies with striking consistency. Nearly all mentioned psychological impact exceeding physical danger. Many attempted to rationalize initially that Soviet claims about female involvement were exaggerated, but confrontation with evidence forced acceptance. Several used almost identical phrasing describing inability to catch what we couldn't match, whether in speed, patience, or endurance. German snipers particularly struggled with acknowledging professional defeat by opponents they'd been taught to consider incapable of such work. Multiple testimonies referenced specific female snipers by reputation, even without knowing names, describing aircraft markings, preferred tactics, or operational areas that allowed post-war researchers to identify individuals. Acknowledgement that Nazi propaganda about Slavic inferiority and female weakness had been catastrophically wrong appeared in majority of testimonies, though usually phrased carefully to avoid seeming too sympathetic to enemy. Some testimonies referenced Lyudmila Pavlichenko specifically, though often indirectly through descriptions matching her documented activities. Lieutenant Werner Koch, 24th Panzer Division, testified about operations near Sevastopol. There was one Soviet sniper we learned to fear more than artillery. Operated for months in same general area. Killed at least 15 men from our regiment that I personally confirmed. Command sent dedicated counter-sniper teams. Teams didn't return. Pattern became clear. Anyone sent specifically to kill this sniper died. Eventually, orders stopped coming. We simply accepted that sector was denied to us. Post-war research indicated this was likely Pavlichenko's operational area during her peak period. Her 36 counter-sniper kills meant she eliminated more German snipers than most German snipers killed total enemies in entire careers. We weren't hunting her. She was systematically eliminating every asset we sent against her. It was predator-prey relationship, but we were prey pretending to be predators. Pavlichenko herself was aware Germans were capturing and interrogating her comrades as war progressed, though specific details of testimonies mentioning her wouldn't emerge until years after war's conclusion. Her response to learning German POWs discussed her specifically during interrogations demonstrated characteristic focus on mission rather than reputation. Interview conducted in 1956 captured her perspective. They could fear me, respect me, or hate me. None of that affected my work. I was soldier doing soldier's work. The 36 German snipers I killed, who'd been sent to hunt me, weren't killed because I was woman. They died because I was better trained by necessity, more patient by nature, and more motivated by seeing what fascists did to my country. Gender was irrelevant to bullet trajectory. Her mission count at war's end reached 309 confirmed kills, achieved across less than 1 year of active combat before severe wounds forced her evacuation from Sevastopol in June 1942. Those 309 kills, including the legendary 36 German counter-snipers, became documented not just in Soviet records, but in German testimonies that confirmed, often reluctantly, what Soviet archives claimed. The testimonies confirmed what Germans had discovered too late. Soviet female snipers weren't anomalies or propaganda fabrications. They were among the most effective tactical assets deployed on the Eastern Front. And Lyudmila Pavlichenko was the deadliest of them all. When Nazi Germany surrendered on May 8, 1945, Lyudmila Pavlichenko's final combat record stood as testament to what Wehrmacht intelligence had initially dismissed as impossible. 309 confirmed kills. The number represented more than a statistic. Each kill was documented, verified through multiple sources, including German casualty reports, witness testimony, and physical confirmation. Soviet military protocol required two independent confirmations for sniper kills to receive official credit. Pavlichenko's 309 meant at least 618 separate verification instances across 10 months of active combat operations. But within that total, one subset of kills created disproportionate psychological impact among German forces. 36. 36 German snipers. Senelager trained professionals with combined 800-plus confirmed kills among them, sent specifically to hunt Soviet snipers who died attempting to eliminate her. 36 men who understood ballistics, fieldcraft, camouflage, patience, all the technical skills that should have made them superior to a university student with 5 days of formal training. They died because training measured competence, not determination. And Pavlichenko possessed determination that German doctrine never quantified. Her operational period lasted from June 1941 through June 1942, when severe shrapnel wounds from German mortar fire forced her evacuation from Sevastopol. 13 months. She averaged 24 kills per month, approximately 1 every 30 hours of combat operations. For context, accomplished German snipers averaged 15 to 20 kills across entire multi-year careers. To understand the magnitude of these numbers, comparison provides necessary context. Wehrmacht's most accomplished Eastern Front sniper, Matthias Hetzenauer, recorded 345 confirmed kills across 3 years. Pavlichenko achieved 309 in 13 months, giving her higher monthly kill rate despite inferior equipment, less training, and operating in defensive positions that limited target opportunities compared to German offensive operations. Soviet male snipers averaged 40 to 80 kills across similar timeframes. Vasily Zaitsev, immortalized in Western films, recorded 225 confirmed kills. Pavlichenko exceeded him by 84. Her 36 counter-sniper eliminations alone surpassed many German snipers' entire careers. Each of those 36 represented German investment of 4,800 Reichsmarks in training, 890 Reichsmarks in equipment, months of preparation, and selection from top 2% of applicants. Total German investment in those 36, approximately 204,000 Reichsmarks, not including operational costs, support personnel, and opportunity costs of their lost future kills. Soviet investment in Pavlichenko, approximately 240 Reichsmarks for rifle and scope, negligible training costs, standard infantry pay. Return on investment, roughly 850 to 1 in Soviet favor, considering only the counter-snipers, ignoring her other 273 kills. The physical toll was severe. 13 months of frontline combat left her with permanent hearing damage from constant artillery, frostbite scars from Crimean winter operations, shrapnel wounds that required months of hospitalization, and psychological impacts she rarely discussed publicly. Photographs from 1941 show a confident 25-year-old university student. Photographs from late 1942 show a woman aged beyond her years, eyes carrying weight of 309 lives ended through her scope. Soviet female snipers' collective record validated Stalin's controversial 1941 decision to mobilize women for direct combat roles, despite widespread skepticism even within Red Army Command. Approximately 2,000 Soviet women served as snipers during the Great Patriotic War. Collective confirmed kills exceeded 12,000, with top performers achieving 200-plus individual totals. Beyond Pavlichenko's 309, Nina Lobkovskaya recorded 308, Lyudmila Kudryavtseva documented 155, and dozens more exceeded 50 confirmed kills. The first Central Women's School of Sniper Training produced 1,885 graduates between 1943 and 1945, losing approximately 25% to combat casualties. 75% survival rate compared favorably to conventional Soviet infantry units experiencing 40 to 60% casualties. Female snipers' effectiveness per casualty exceeded male counterparts because their tactical approach emphasized patience over aggression, resulting in higher success rates and lower detection. Cost effectiveness was remarkable. Total Soviet investment in female sniper program, approximately 5 million rubles including training facilities, equipment, and support infrastructure. German casualties inflicted, conservatively 12,000 killed, with additional thousands wounded. German material destroyed through disrupted operations, eliminated observation posts, and killed officers. Estimated value exceeding 200 million Reichsmarks. Beyond quantifiable damage, psychological impact degraded German morale across entire Eastern Front. Wehrmacht soldiers learned that Soviet women weren't auxiliary personnel, but lethal combatants requiring same tactical respect as male soldiers, forcing doctrinal reassessment that consumed command attention and resources. But numbers alone don't capture strategic value these women provided. German forces diverted substantial resources to counter sniper operations, specifically targeting female snipers after June 1942 discovery. Dedicated training programs, specialized equipment, and priority intelligence collection focused on eliminating this threat. Those resources, spent countering 2,000 women with rifles, couldn't be allocated to conventional operations. Psychological warfare component proved equally valuable. German infantry's knowledge that women were systematically eliminating their officers and specialists created morale problems Wehrmacht never fully addressed. Soviet propaganda effectively weaponized female snipers' success, demonstrating fascist ideology's failures while boosting Red Army morale. Strategic impact extended beyond immediate combat effectiveness to reveal fundamental flaws in Wehrmacht intelligence assessment and doctrinal rigidity. Germans' inability to adapt to asymmetric threats, demonstrated through their failures against female snipers using inferior equipment and unorthodox tactics, foreshadowed larger systemic problems that contributed to ultimate defeat. Marshal Georgy Zhukov, in his memoirs published 1969, wrote, "Our female snipers demonstrated that, in warfare, the enemy's assumptions become his vulnerabilities. Germans assumed women couldn't fight, assumed crude equipment couldn't succeed, assumed patience was weakness rather than strength. Every assumption cost them casualties they couldn't afford." After Sevastopol's evacuation in June 1942, Pavlichenko's severe wounds prevented return to frontline service. Soviet High Command, recognizing her propaganda value, assigned her to training duties and international goodwill tour. In autumn 1942, she traveled to United States as part of Soviet delegation, seeking American support for opening Second Front. She became first Soviet citizen received at White House, meeting President Franklin Roosevelt and First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. American press, initially condescending, asked questions about her uniform's appearance and whether Soviet women wore makeup in combat. Her response, delivered through interpreter: "Gentlemen, I am 25 years old, and I have killed 309 fascist occupiers by now. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long?" The statement made American newspapers nationwide. She addressed packed halls across America, including notable speech in Chicago, where she detailed German atrocities and challenged American reluctance to open Western Front while Soviets bled. Eleanor Roosevelt befriended Pavlichenko during this tour, correspondence between them continuing until Roosevelt's death. Post-war, Pavlichenko completed her history degree at Kiev University, graduating 1945. She joined Soviet Committee of Veterans of War, traveling internationally to speak about Soviet victory and women's contributions. Promoted to major, she trained Soviet snipers during remaining war years and continued instructing at military academies through 1950s. She married twice, had son, and lived relatively private life despite official hero of the Soviet Union status. Awards included Order of Lenin, 2 Orders of the Red Star, and numerous campaign medals. Soviet recognition of her achievements fluctuated with political climate. Stalin's post-war suspicion of celebrated military heroes limited public acknowledgement during late 1940s. Khrushchev's thaw allowed more open celebration of wartime achievements. By 1960s, Pavlichenko was regular speaker at veterans events and schools, though she rarely discussed specific combat details, preferring to emphasize Soviet victories' collective nature rather than individual accomplishments. She died October 10, 1974, aged 58, from complications of wounds received at Sevastopol 3 decades earlier. The shrapnel that ended her combat career ultimately killed her. Buried with military honors at Novodevichy Cemetery in Moscow, her gravestone notes simply, "Hero of the Soviet Union." Surviving comrades from 25th Rifle Division attended funeral, several sharing memories of her patience, precision, and absolute calm under fire. One recalled, "She never celebrated kills, never kept trophies, never showed emotion after engagements. She did her work with same matter-of-fact approach as carpenter building furniture. When asked how she could kill so many, she replied, 'They came to destroy my country. I sent them home in boxes instead.'" For decades, Pavlichenko's story remained virtually unknown in West. Cold War dynamics ensured Soviet war heroines were dismissed as propaganda inventions or their achievements dramatically exaggerated. Western historians, lacking access to Soviet archives and German records, couldn't verify claims that seemed improbable. A woman sniper with 309 kills. Obviously Soviet myth-making. 36 counter-snipers eliminated? Impossible exaggeration designed to demoralize West. This skepticism persisted through 1980s, despite occasional mentions in specialized military histories. Glasnost changed everything. Soviet archive access allowed Western researchers to examine original documentation. German military records, stored in various archives, provided corroborating evidence. Wehrmacht casualty reports listed specific dates, locations, and circumstances matching Soviet claims. Names of German snipers killed in Sevastopol sector appeared in both German personnel records and Soviet sniper logs. Cross-referencing revealed Soviet accounts were, if anything, conservative. Pavlichenko's 309 represented only confirmed, documented kills meeting stringent verification requirements. Actual total was likely higher. During 1990s and 2000s, historians published detailed studies with access to both Soviet and German primary sources. Books, documentaries, and academic papers brought her story to Western audiences, who discovered their preconceptions about Soviet propaganda were backward. The propaganda was real, but the achievements were even more real. Modern recognition includes museums, memorials, and educational programs across former Soviet republics and internationally. Russian Postal Service issued commemorative stamp featuring her image. Ukrainian government designated her birthplace in Bila Tserkva as protected cultural site. The rifle she used in combat resides in Armed Forces Museum in Moscow, displayed with documentation of her 309 confirmed kills and 36 counter-sniper eliminations. Schools in Ukraine and Russia bear her name. Multiple biographies have been published in Russian and translated to other languages. Western popular culture slowly incorporated her story, though often simplified or romanticized. The recognition she never sought in life became unavoidable decades after death. As historians recognized her combat record represented one of most remarkable individual military achievements in modern warfare, made more remarkable by accomplishing it in 13 months while facing enemy who initially refused to believe women could fight. The story of Lyudmila Pavlichenko transcends its historical moment and reveals universal truths about warfare and human capability. Asymmetric tactics defeated technological superiority when she used patience and fieldcraft to overcome German advantages in training, equipment, and doctrine. Psychological impact exceeded physical damage as her 36 counter-sniper kills created fear that paralyzed German sniper operations across entire sectors. Innovation mattered more than resources when she transformed supposed weaknesses, crude rifle, minimal training, defensive positions, into tactical advantages German professionals couldn't counter. Underestimation created vulnerability as German assumptions about gender, about acceptable training levels, about what equipment could be effective, blinded them to actual threat until casualties mounted beyond ignorable levels. Each of her 309 kills required extraordinary resilience, flying missions knowing each engagement could end in death, enduring physical conditions that broke trained soldiers, maintaining psychological equilibrium while systematically killing human beings for months without respite. The determination required to continue after first kill, 10th kill, 100th kill, 300th kill exceeded anything German doctrine measured or anticipated. The Hauptmann who briefed his snipers about the university girl playing soldier never understood what Pavlichenko proved through 309 confirmed kills and 36 dead German hunters. Courage doesn't require the most advanced equipment. Skill can overcome institutional advantages. Determination makes doctrine irrelevant. Her Mosin-Nagant rifle, crude by German standards, killed more effectively than precision carabiner 98K systems because the shooter mattered more than the weapon. Her 5 days of training produced deadlier results than 16-week Zenelager courses because necessity teaches faster than curriculum. Her 36 counter-sniper eliminations weren't lucky accidents, but systematic dismantling of enemy assets by someone who understood that in warfare, the hunter who waits longest usually survives. And in frozen positions that German soldiers couldn't imagine enduring, against an enemy that refused to take her seriously until their best snipers died attempting to kill her, Lyudmila Pavlichenko proved that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the most powerful one. It's the one your enemy never sees coming until the shot is already fired.